Good morning or good afternoon. Thanks for this kind invitation. To be part of the CCA Islands community is an honor and a pleasure. I'm María Inés Rodríguez, a Colombian curator based in Brussels and director of Tropical Papers and Fundación Walter and Nicole Leblanc. Our dear Ayako asked me to talk about Tropical Papers today. I will try to answer who we are, where we are, and what we are doing. Tropical Papers is a digital platform that connects art, architecture, design, and scientific research from or about the tropics. I love to see it as a space in between, a place to pause, to breathe, and then to continue on to somewhere else. Tropical Papers was founded at a moment of uncertainty as a hub where we could find shelter and that could also offer shelter to others whenever needed. We started 21 or 22 years ago at the time when the digital was often presented as the cancellation of the analog, of the tangible, even of the real. We decided to approach it differently, not as a replacement, but as an opportunity to create our own space, a new land for encounter, circulation, and exchange, and to have a platform that can be built, shared, and transformed by those who pass through it. A place that does not entirely belong to anyone, and precisely because of that, can be inhabited by many. Tropical Papers is less an institution with a fixed identity, and more a framework for thinking through certain urgencies of the present, like ecology, displacement, forms of coexistence, circulation of knowledge, and the politics of visibility. Of course, the word tropical here is very important, but not as an exotic category or as a geographical marker, but understood as a condition, a space historically shaped by colonial exploitation, ecological violence, migration, hybridity, and intense cultural circulation. In that sense, the tropics are not peripheral to modernity. They are central to understanding it. This is close to the ideas of Edouard Glissant, whose presence and work has been very influential for us. Glissant proposed the idea of une pensée archipélique, a way of thinking that rejects the imposition of unity and universal models, and instead embraces relationship, multiplicity, and opacity. I would love to quote Edouard Glissant in French, and we will insert the subtitles in English, of course. So I quote, "Cette pensée, elle ne répond ni à la peur, ni au doute, ni à l'incertitude. Elle résiste au raidissement des pensées des systèmes et aux emportements des systèmes de pensée. Elle maintient tout système dans ses formes méthodologiques et le garde de verser dans des absolus. Elle ouvre l'identité sur le rapport à l'autre et sur le change qui provient alors de l'échange, sans que cette identité en soit perturbée ni dénaturée. Elle est la pensée sismique du monde qui tremble en nous et autour de nous." Voilà. So, an archipel is made of relations. For Glissant, islands are not isolated entities, especially today when we are constantly negotiating multiple scales at once, local and global, ecological and technological, personal and infrastructural. And talking about islands here in our CCA Islands is very special to me. Why? So, this is why Tropical Papers brings together artists, architects, scientists, writers, curators, designers, and researchers. Not to dissolve disciplinary boundaries, but to create productive frictions between them. We need urgently forms of transversal thinking. That's why. The idea of movement is another important aspect of the project. We often refer to the idea of rester en mouvement, remaining in movement. This should not be understood through the contemporary obsession of mobility, productivity, and hyperconnectivity. Rather, it refers to intellectual and perceptual movement, the capacity to displace inherited frameworks, to remain open to the complexities, and to resist rigid categories. In that sense, movement is also a methodology for us. The project moves between formats, from publications to residencies, conversations, collective research, public programs. And I would love to explain and to show some images about 2 or 3 programs. And I would love to invite you to go to our website because we have everything there. So on residence and living room, both programs encourage experimentation and provide endorsement, feedback, and visibility to emerging or mid-career artists with a particular focus on projects addressing climate change and global warming, building bridges between the urban and the rural, new technologies, and ancestral knowledge. On residence, for example, was developed at the time of COVID and provided to a small group of artists financial support and exchange with a mentor for 2 to 4 months. During this period, the artists were commissioned to conceive a specific intervention for our digital platforms. Behind me, there is a poster by Jose Ruiz, who was at the time confined in Bogota, Colombia, in a gallery. And every day he was producing one poster through messages that our audiences sent to him, and they translated in these posters, and the images were published every day on Instagram. The living room, the second program, was a place where private space meets a larger audience and brings together different but deeply interconnected realities. Artists were invited to listen, observe, share, and enjoy a sensitive and resilient experience with our audiences. I remember memorable living rooms with Amalia Pica and her incredible guests, and cooking sections sharing their research and amazing cocktails recipes that we share all together online. Or even Ryoko Sekiguchi and her friends talking about ghosts and talking also about cocktails and sunsets. Beautiful days. TV channel is maybe our first program. It started in a very precarious way, just recording with a telephone short videos in which cultural practitioners, artists, curators, scholars, writers briefly introduce their practice as well as their latest project to date. TV channel is posted periodically in tropical papers, platforms, and progressively become an archive of cultural practices, production, and transmission of knowledge in and from the tropics. There is another program that we started in 2020, and it was an experimental sound project. It was launched during the first global lockdown, and the program commissioned artists working with experimental music or sound. The different proposals in this section call for a synesthetic engagement and reconnection with one's sense and body in vibration and resonance with melodies, beats, rhythms, or tunog, meaning sounds and sonorities in Tagalog. We had the different interventions that you can see also on Instagram or in our website with Héctor Buitrago, one of the leaders of the Colombian group Aterciopelados, or Ernesto Paredano, a filmmaker and musician from Spain based in Dominican Republic. Attention After Technology was an ambitious project developed in collaboration with Consult Trondheim, Art Hub Copenhagen, State of Concept in Athens, and the Swiss Institute in New York. The project focuses on research and develops new artworks exploring the relationships between attention, algorithms, and social justice. We organized a symposium, 2 exhibitions, specific works for our digital platform, and a series of residencies. And our most recent program is called Tropical Lab. And in French, we call that Atelier des Savoirs Partagés. We invited 10 emerging artists from diasporic backgrounds based in France, were brought together for 4 months for a cycle of workshops, mentorships, and conversations with curators, artists, and cultural practitioners from around the world. They had also a studio visit and a mentorship. We are right now preparing the 2nd edition of this program and hope so there will be a 3rd edition. Voila. Sometimes the most important outcome is not the final object, but the network of relations produced through the process itself. That's very important for us. Tropical Papers creates spaces where complexity is not treated as a problem to eliminate, but as a condition to work collectively. And maybe this is especially relevant today. It's important to consider who speaks, whose knowledge circulates, what kinds of histories become visible, and how institutions relate to ecological and social transformation. Projects like Tropical Papers do not offer solutions in a simplified sense, but they can function as platforms for attention, spaces where different forms of knowledge can remain in dialogue and movement, and perhaps that is already a significant form of action. I'm thinking today about Colombia, because I come from there. It's a very, very hard day, and hope so the future of Colombia will be much better than today. Thanks a lot for this kind invitation, dear Jaco, dear Nubu. It's always a pleasure to share time with you guys.
Thank you very much.
A pleasure, a pleasure.